Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another week here at The Athletic on the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. Michael Beller, Brandon Funston, and Jake Seeley here with you, kicking off the first week of August, my friends. Jake, I've got a Flex shirt on. Flex weekend is this coming weekend. I will not be there in person. Kickoff weekend though going on. I'm going to be doing one of the online drafts, but I wanted to celebrate with you. This is it. I keep teasing the start of the season getting closer and closer. August though, I mean, we're here, guys. We're here. This month is one of the best months of the year because of all the fantasy football drafts that we have going on. So I wanted to celebrate you, Jake, with this Flex shirt.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's what we call it with the coverage that we have. We call it this kickoff to draft season. That's what we're doing. This kicks everything off. It's Hall of Fame weekend, which nobody really cares much about that game, but get to see us draft. I got to see Brandon's pretty face in person for the first time in 2.5 years.
2.5 years, probably at least. Yeah. I got my vacation in ahead of time because you always get mad once I take a vacation after kickoff weekend. So I'm ready to go.
Funston's like, what's football? I'm taking more vacation.
Yeah, right. Get in as much as you can.
You guys, you got to do the show without me on Thursday because I'm going to be in the middle of a plane headed to the draft. Look at all that. So it'd just be you two relishing not having to talk to me for a day.
Hey, yeah, I mean, we got to do what we got to do. So you get those times in, you get this Flex weekend. It's going to be great. All this draft stuff. It is kickoff to drafts and everything going on there. And that's what we're doing. We did this a couple weeks ago where we had we started to do these offbeat drafts, and then Funston leaves us to go to Montana for a week. So we had to put that on hold, but we're back and we're going to have another draft here. We're always going to do these drafts with a little bit of a catch. And today's catch is going to be that there are no number ones allowed. What do I mean by that? What do I mean no number ones allowed? I mean, anyone who has been a QB1, RB1, wide receiver 1, or tight end 1 in either of the last 2 seasons is ineligible for the draft that we are going to conduct here today. Basically, we're looking for the guys who could be breakout players this season who we haven't seen get to that level in either of the last 2 years. We're going to draft these teams. We're going to go 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a tight end, and 2 flexes. So we're going to be quick because we want to get through as many players as we possibly can. But we also want to not be sitting here for 2 hours. So we're going to be quick. We're going to get through these teams, and we're going to show you maybe how to target and prioritize potential breakout players for this season. And so we're going to get going here by setting a draft order, you guys. We did this last time. I've got this randomizer here. I'm hoping it doesn't give us the same order as it did last time. So you know what? I'm just gonna randomize it once, and as long as it's different, we're gonna go with that. If it's the exact same, I'll do it a second time. So let's just do it this first time. I'm clicking right now. Here it comes. No, this was the exact order it was last time, wasn't it?
No, I had the middle pick, didn't I?
You had the middle pick?
Have the turn. It is.
This was it. This was the exact order, and I had the first pick.
You should have done the 100-yard dash thing that I did. You could actually do that one super fast.
Here we go. I'm just gonna do another one. Oh man, I don't. This. All right, there it is.
Come on,
there's the new order.
Do it until you like it.
There's no. I don't want to keep getting the first pick. There it is. That's the order.
He was trying to get himself off the first pick.
Not off the first pick. I would think you would want the first pick. I'll go back to the other one and keep the order the way we had it.
Okay, I'm down with that. You take the first pick.
All right. So
you want it or you don't want it?
I do not want the first pick.
All right. Then it is me first. Jake is second. And Brandon is on that 1-2 turn. So let's do it, guys. Let's do it. As I said, we're really trying to hunt down the breakout players that we can find this season. And we are going to, keep track of this all season long as well, like we did with our wide receiver 3 draft, We'll be keeping track of this one too. So I guess that puts me on the clock. I've got a draft sheet here that I will share with everyone. Let me grab that right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to share or be able to see this.
Okay.
Yep. Grabbing it. Here it is. So just to show you the players who are available, there we go. It is now available to us to see. And I actually blew it up a little bit so we can really see top running backs who are available: Antonio Gibson, Joe Mixon, just barely, Najee Harris, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, J.K. Dobbins, wide receivers, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb, Robert Woods, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore. Over at the quarterback position, we've got Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford. At tight end, we got Kyle Pitts, Noah Fant, and a bunch of guys who maybe won't be drafted in the real world. And that is what we're looking at here. So I am on the clock with the first pick in our no ones allowed draft. And I don't know, guys, this feels relatively easy to me. It's got to be Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's going to be my pick here for the first overall pick. He just barely missed it. He was running back 13 2 years ago. He was an RB1 by points per game last season, but did it in just 6 games. So he is still eligible for this draft. I feel like this one doesn't really need a whole lot of explanation when you look at the guys who are available. Again, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb, Najee Harris. He feels like the one guy who sets himself apart. So I'm not even going to bother explaining. Joe Mixon is the first overall pick in our no ones allowed draft. Jake, if you want to say something about Mixon, you can, or you can just go right into your pick.
No, you did. You basically got the easiest one, and you kind of made I thought maybe you would take who I was going to take, if not, but you just made the decision that Najee Harris is really easy for me as the number 2. Talking about somebody walking into 300 touches into that offense, which is you still, whether or not you have questions about the offensive line, is still going to be one of the better offenses in the league. So Najee Harris, I don't feel we've talked about him ad nauseum on the show, so I don't really even think he needs much more explanation. Yeah,
we really have, and we've presented both sides of the Najee Harris argument on this show as well, and I think by now everyone pretty much understands it. So we're just flying right through this first round. Again, we are doing no ones, no QB1, RB1, wide receiver 1, or tight end 1 over the last 2 seasons are eligible. Joe Mixon goes first. Najee Harris goes second. Funston, you've got a couple of picks here. Who do you got to start your team?
Now, just a quick point of order. We're doing half PPR, and are we doing super flex? We have to draft 2 QBs. Is that?
We're drafting 2 QBs. Yeah, it's, technically, I suppose it's super flex, but really we're just trying to give everyone a picture.
Well, okay, I just want to know if it's super flex or not, because it changes the whole, it changes.
Yeah, we weren't drafting a super flex. You get because that changes my pick.
We're going. No. We're going 2 QBs. The point of this is that we were going to draft. This is for the listeners, Funston, not just for us. We want to give a picture of what 6 quarterbacks who haven't been QB1s might look like this season.
Okay. Well, then now that I understand fully, I will fall in line with you guys and take 2 guys that I have just kind of right on the Najee Harris, Joe Mixon cluster, and I'll take Antonio Gibson and J.K. Dobbins. Go keep the running back train going.
There you go. We have not talked a lot, I feel like, about Antonio Gibson this season. We've talked quite a bit about J.K. Dobbins and that we all think he can be a running back 1 this season, even with Gus Edwards in the mix. We expect there to be a little bit more receiving upside for J.K. Dobbins this season, but we really haven't spent a ton of time on this show talking about Antonio Gibson. So Funston, you say he's right in that Najee Harris group for you. Why is that?
Well, it's, it takes a little bit of leap of faith that Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to throw the ball to the running back. But it's also, you have to believe that they want to push Gibson more in the passing game and not make J.D. McKissic such a big part of this offense. And it makes sense that Gibson, coming as a wide receiver background from Memphis, and Ron Rivera, frankly, saying he has like the CMC skill set, not calling him CMC, but basically saying he's capable of taking on that kind of a workload. So, I feel good about there being a step up in terms of workload that includes the passing game work as well.
Yeah, Jake, interested for your take on Antonio Gibson as well, and then we can transition into your second round pick here. We've had 4 running backs go off the board with the first 4 picks. Where is Antonio Gibson slotting for you as we turn the calendar over to August?
He's a high in RB2, but he's also somebody I haven't drafted yet. Mostly because I've either taken my running back by first already, and he's also gone a little bit high. I think the helium's getting a little too much on Antonio Gibson, in my opinion, because nobody's looking at the downsides, and that's even before we're talking about this injury. There's some injury experts out there that are saying this is worth our attention more than people are giving it, and the fact that he's still dealing with this foot. So that's part of it, on top of the fact that I wrote the article about Ryan Fitzpatrick and throwing to running backs, and among the league lowest. He's only had 1 touchdown to quarterbacks over the past 5 years. Or it's 3 touchdowns. There's 3 touchdowns. One of them was to 2, and I think one of them was going back to Matt Forte. So just going back to doesn't throw a lot to the running back. And I do think they'll use him more, but unless McKissic gets completely eliminated from the passing game, I understand it. I love Gibson as much as the next guy, but I just think there's a little too much for trying to push him to RB1. I'm not saying this is a bad pick by Brandon because of who's on the board, but just overall, I love the Dobbins one. You know that. I'm sitting here looking at this board, and I'm going talent gap here. That's really what I'm looking at the positions, and it's talent gap. So I'm going Kyle Pitts because Kyle Pitts, I keep saying it, if you said Justin Jefferson last year, if you're going into a position where the number 2 receiver, and yes, he's a tight end, but receiving options for the Falcons, he's stepping into a volume role similar to like Justin Jefferson just did. And at Kyle Pitts, the gap from everybody else at all the other positions, this is why I'm going Kyle Pitts here.
So we've talked about Kyle Pitts a little bit, and you can take this one, Brandon, just because to circle back to it, right? Kyle Pitts now with looking like the Julio Jones replacement in the Atlanta offense. We're seeing him climb up draft boards a little bit, and right now he has an ADP. Hold on, give me 1 second. He's got an ADP that puts him right at 50. So we're seeing Michael Thomas slide down, and Michael Thomas is right above him. That slide's going to continue. So ignore Michael Thomas for a second. James Robinson, Dak Prescott, Mark Andrews, Cooper Kupp, those are the other guys in the neighborhood. Is that something that with everyone available to you and not just the guys we're talking about in this particular draft that you're comfortable with, Funston?
Yeah, and this is I actually thought he had some argument to be made as the number 1 overall pick, given like wins above replacement potential here with this group. So I thought about taking Kyle Pitts there at the turn, but I think this is a good pick. And it's people want to push back on it's the tight end, but as Jake said, he's a receiver and he's built like a receiver, and we've seen receivers hit the ground running a lot in the last few years, and we saw the reports that Atlanta was just peppering him with targets and mini camps, and their other options outside of Calvin Ridley, who's not 100% healthy right now, is to throw the ball to Hayden Hurst and Russell Gage more. You want to be throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts. So I just think that it's almost a can't lose situation. I'll knock on wood as I say it, but he's going to see a lot of targets.
Yeah, it's got to be just a major target share for Kyle Pitts this season, and feels like one of those few guys who the helium is worth it. And you can't just talk about him the same way that we talk about typical rookie tight ends. That's just not the sort of player he is or the sort of role he is inhabiting with the Falcons this season. We've made it back to me on the 2-3 turn, so I am going to make our first wide receiver picks here. I don't think we're going to see another tight end for a while. I don't know if we're going to see a quarterback for a little while either, but I'm going to go with a couple of wide receivers here, and I'm going to go pretty simple. The guys right at the top of the wide receiver list. Give me Terry McLaurin and CeeDee Lamb as picks 2 and 3. You can see them there in the sheet now. McLaurin and Lamb are two guys that we've talked about a whole lot here, and CeeDee Lamb is the one who I really want to get in on because we're already seeing the glowing training camp reports. We knew those were coming from CeeDee Lamb. He is a workout monster, someone who's going to make a bunch of big plays happen in training camp. We know that we're not going to see a ton of Amari Cooper this summer, if really anything meaningful from Amari Cooper, as he's still rehabbing his foot injury, and so that it gives even more opportunity for CeeDee Lamb. And then we have to acknowledge the fact, you guys, that Hard Knocks is going to Dallas this season. And we know that narrative is going to be around, and people are going to be seeing CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb's going to be a fun guy to watch on that show, and he's going to be making plays. Like, I think he's going to be getting drafted as a top 10 receiver when it's all said and done. I mean, he's basically already there, and I think he's ultimately going to push up into that group. I think I'm maybe comfortable with it. It'll depend on Amari Cooper. Jake, would you be comfortable if we're talking about CeeDee Lamb pushing up into the top 10, maybe ahead of guys like, I don't know, Keenan Allen or Terry McLaurin, that group of guys?
No. It's already getting overblown. And I wrote an article a month ago or 2 months ago about the next breakout wide receivers and starting with CeeDee Lamb. It's getting so blown out of proportion at this point, where the fact that if Amari Cooper is healthy, which is a question still as of today, but they're saying he's going to be fine, but we're not going to see a lot of him until late in the preseason, if at all. So I understand that being the concern. And I, in that article, even said we could see Lamb step past Cooper like Ridley just did with Julio Jones. Also somewhat injury related, but to push him up there over Allen Robinson's volume, over Keenan Allen's volume and what we've seen from both of them, to push him over McLaurin, and in my opinion, a lot of wide receivers that are guaranteed wide receiver ones year after year after year, and their floor is like wide receiver 16. So you're not even dropping back that big floor. Is CeeDee Lamb has all the makings to be an NFL number 1. You still have Cooper, you still have Gallup, who's a touchdown big play threat for them. You could just see very easily where in a good season, CeeDee Lamb finishes as wide receiver 20. And it's just, I'm not going to pay wide receiver 1 price for it. I can see him finish in his top 10. I can also see him finish. That's basically it. It's what Funston says in a different version. Funston keeps saying, don't pay last year's peak price for this year's value. Well, I'm not paying peak potential price for what he could be. Like, where's he have to go from up if you're taking him as the 10th wide receiver? You actually, did you want to jump back in? I was going to go right to
No. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I rolled the dice with the Pitts thing too, hoping one of two running backs were going to make it back to me, and you let both of them come back to me, so that worked out well for me. And I'm going to go back to everybody hates him from last year, but I'm happy to go right back because through week 11, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was an RB1. He was. Everybody hates him. Everybody forgets the fact that, the excitement for Edwards-Helaire being in this offense was always, no, he wasn't going to touch the ball 20 times per game. Did it go as great as people wanted? Of course not. And that's why we all sat here and said, what are you doing taking him with the 5th, 6th, 7th pick in the first round? Mm-hmm. Chill the F out. Similar to CeeDee Lamb. Like, the hype got so high, is like, chill out. But now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, again, Darrell Williams, I think, is one of the best values to take late in drafts as backup plan. But Edwards-Helaire going at mid-teen running back, I think he could easily finish as an RB1 because he just did it before Le'Veon Bell showed up and ruined everything.
Yeah. Where are you at on him in getting, goal line touches? I think he's out there. So I'm
not that concerned about it. How many running backs have we seen? Matt Forte for years was the king of getting vultured, and Matt Forte for years finishes a top 10 running back year after year.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not Matt Forte until he proves he's Matt Forte.
He just did in 11 games.
Don't you go Matt Forte on Beller. He'll be quick.
Don't. There's been like 1.5 bears, maybe 2 bears my entire life on offense worth cheering for, and that's one of them. Don't you just go throwing around Matt Forte like it's easy to be him out there.
But Najee Harris isn't Najee Harris until he proves it. Again, Clyde Edwards-Helaire just proved plenty in 11 games.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if he can actually be. Matt Forte had a reception record for a while there before Christian McCaffrey came in.
That's a mic drop, Beller. So you can walk away there. You want me to make my picks now?
Let's move on here, Funston. Who you got here at the turn?
Matt Forte. He hasn't finished.
He hasn't finished as an RB1 either the last 2 years. That is true.
You know what? I'm gonna go. I like your double combo wide receivers there, Beller. I actually think the next two wide receivers on the list are not of their level, but they're not that far back. I mean, Robert Woods, he's as reliable as it gets in this Rams offense. Maybe there's a little bit higher ceiling with Matt Stafford there, but I think he's wide receiver 13 last year, so he's been on the borderline of being a wide receiver 1, and I think he was the year before as well. And Deontay Johnson, Jake talks about him. He showed when he was healthy, he is the number one target for Ben Roethlisberger. It's a high-volume passing attack. So I feel in a half PPR sense or better, these guys are pretty safe picks at this point.
Jake, these are two guys that we know you like a lot. And there's been something that you mentioned to me. I think it was an episode that Funston wasn't here. And I've had it tucked away. And we're going to get to definitely a bold prediction show down the line. But since we're talking about Robert Woods now, and he's someone we haven't talked about a ton, you said Robert Woods as a potential wide receiver 1 this season. That was a call you made a couple of weeks ago. So what's the argument for that? What's the argument for Robert Woods not being eligible for this draft next year if we do it again?
It mostly comes down to we've already seen Robert Woods fringe touch on being a wide receiver 1, and that was before Matthew Stafford. And what I was saying, and when I threw that out, is that a lot of people are on Cooper Kupp, and deservedly so. What if he just loves Robert Woods? What if Robert Woods gets a 21% target share, and Cooper Kupp's a nice number, 16, 17, but it's a decent gap. I think a lot of us are expecting it to be 19, 18, like a very close gap. But what if the gap is a decent amount? And what if he treats him like he treats Kenny Golladay? And it's like, what has been Robert Woods' bugaboo in fantasy is touchdowns. What if all of a sudden Stafford fixes that for Robert Woods? That's the only thing that's been holding him back. So that's why for Robert Woods, in case Funston was talking and didn't see that I was flicking him off when he took Deontay Johnson, I just want to make sure.
I didn't see it either. I'm clicking around all these tabs. I didn't see it either, so I'm happy
I just want to make sure he's taking my Deontay over there. So now he makes a tough decision on my hands here. Is like, do I take a third running back or do I kind of jump into the wide receiver pool, which you just kind of broke the tier because now it's Moore and Beckham, and
you think that's a tier break for you, DJ Moore? I understand definitely Beckham, Ayuk, Chase, but you think Moore's more in that group than he is in the Woods Deontay group?
Always has been. This is what I jokingly said about DJ Moore last year. I'm done trying to figure out which week DJ Moore is top 10 and which way DJ Moore finishes as wide receiver 35. He's just ranked wide receiver 20 forever and for always. He's just wide receiver 20. And that's usually where he finishes at the end of the season too, because he's all over the map. If there was no Christian McCaffrey with Curtis Samuel being gone, but Christian McCaffrey's back. Like that's 100 targets right there, offsetting and then some with Curtis Samuel. So no, I like DJ Moore. I just think that definitively there's a very clear floor and a similar ceiling with that Brandon just obliterated. So I'll go back. I'll take my third running back. I'll take up one of my flex spots already. I'll go back to DeAndre Swift, who I've poo-pooed as much as anybody because I love the player and hate the situation. But at the same time, now I do think, and maybe you guys can disagree with this, but I think this is another teardrop. I think that we go from Swift to the guys that are on the board. It feels like a break right here for me. Although there's one.
There's one more. We don't have to talk about it. I mean,
oh my God.
We know. I mean, we know who your next guy is, Jake. You've talked about him on not every show, but like 90% of the shows we've done.
Can I undo a pick?
You can undo a pick. We're taking this pretty casually. You can undo a pick.
I'm gonna undo a pick. I'm gonna put DJ Moore in this team because I have a feeling I still might get somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Yeah, we'll give you that. So DJ Moore, after all that,
after the guy who has just
all
one
that shit talking about DJ Moore, now you're back in on DJ Moore.
That's because there's 3 running backs. I can't believe I did that. And yeah, continue. We'll see who you take. I think we're fine. I think I'm fine for the next pick.
All that trash talk.
This is understanding what's still on the board.
But did you just empty out a tier, the next tier of wide receiver, Jake? Because I kind of feel like
I have no problem starting the next tier of wide receiver because even if Beller goes running back, it's still back.
But in my mind, DJ Moore was the only player in that tier at wide receiver. I think he just opened up a new tier.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think I started a new tier, which I don't have a problem with.
I think you started and ended it.
Started and ended it. And this is actually we've got a kaleidoscope of opinion on DJ Moore here because I would put DJ Moore in the group with Robert Woods and with and Deontay Johnson. No. I mean, look at you just talked about touchdowns being the only thing that have held back Robert Woods. Well, DJ Moore has 87 catches, 1,175 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, good thing he has a quarterback who knows how to throw touchdowns.
66 catches, 1,193 yards, 4 touchdowns. If you give him 6.5, you protect him for 6.5 touchdowns this season, he flies up the rankings.
I'll take
the under. He flies way up.
Are we making that?
I mean, I think the under is the reasonable way to go. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander here. If Robert Woods is only being held back by touchdowns,
too bad he has
DJ Moore any different?
At quarterback.
All right. I'm gonna noodle around with the DJ Moore side bet because this is ridiculous, this DJ Moore slander. I've got a couple of picks here, but before those couple of picks, we've got a message here from Roman. Look, no one's perfect. Jake hates DJ Moore, for example, so he very clearly isn't perfect. If you feel like you come up short in the bedroom sometimes, it is perfectly okay. And if it's bothering you, there are options. All you got to do is go to GetRoman.com/fantasy now. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. A U.S. licensed healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan, and if medication is appropriate, it ships to you with free 2-day shipping. The whole process, it is straightforward, it is discreet, and getting started, that is as simple as it gets. All you got to do is go to GetRoman.com/fantasy and complete an online visit. Take care of your ED without leaving home. Go to GetRoman.com/fantasy and get $15 off your first month of treatment. That's GetRoman.com/fantasy and get $15 off your first month of treatment. All right, guys. So like I was saying, I've got a couple of picks here. So DJ Moore off the board. Strange. Okay. I am definitely looking at the running back position. I'll take the guy who you left, Jake. I'll take DeAndre Swift. I'll go ahead and just plop him down in there. I agree. We've talked a little bit about Detroit and how, there's going to be offense there. I mean, Jacksonville went 1-15 last season, and James Robinson was the RB7. There's going to be opportunities for DeAndre Swift to make plays. And this was something, Jake, you and I talked about last week. Funston, you were out. If there's one thing that this team has done well, they've invested in the offensive line. Like, they have a very strong offensive line, especially for a team that we expect to be a bottom-feeding sort of team. So I feel pretty good about getting DeAndre Swift in there on this squad as my 4th-round pick. 5th round, I could go in a few different directions. I actually don't think it would be too crazy to go to the quarterback position here, even though there's plenty of guys who I like, and maybe you guys are going to leave some of them for me. I'm not going to go in that direction. I do think that there's an argument to go with maybe one of those first 2 quarterbacks who are listed. I am not going to go there. However, I look at the running back position still, and I think that's where the most talent is on the board right now. So I see Sanders, I see Myles Gaskin, I see Mike Davis. I think that is definitely the tier. I think you could argue Darrell Henderson into that group. I'm not so sure I would be on board with that. He would definitely be my 4th guy, but I think that's another situation where maybe we're looking at a tier of 1. So I look at Sanders, I look at Gaskin, I look at Mike Davis. You guys might think I'm out there on this one, but I'm going Miles Sanders. I just think there's too much talent here, and I think that everything went wrong in Philadelphia last season. Everything. Top to bottom, offensive line injuries, Carson Wentz playing like garbage, Miles Sanders dealing with some injuries of his own, and everything comes back this year in a way that should shape up and benefit Miles Sanders. And I just think that when you look at that roster, even though they have all those other running backs there, we know one of Jordan Howard or Kerryon Johnson's going to be there. Boston Scott's going to have his role in the offense. There's no way you look at that group and say, we can't get Miles Sanders 70% of the touch. You have to look at that and say, we're getting him the bulk in a big way of the backfield touches. And again, this is about shooting for those breakouts. I think Myles Gaskin and Mike Davis, yes, they have safer floors, but Miles Sanders, unquestionably the bigger ceiling of that group. So I'm going to go with Miles Sanders. Jake, tell me why I'm an idiot and why I should have taken Mike Davis.
I'm not going to say you're an idiot. I can see the path to where Miles Sanders gets back to top 15, but I've already gone on record multiple times in my hesitancy of Miles Sanders because of what this team has told me by their actions. And I think this team is legitimately concerned about his volume in the passing game and his efficiency in the passing game, which he was part of the problem with his own self last year. Now, can that all be rectified? Sure. But again, this team drafted another option just like Boston Scott. They brought in more pieces, including Kerryon Johnson. They brought back Jordan Howard, who actually probably doesn't make the roster at this point because they have so many options. I just legitimately concerned the volume is going to be there. So I would have taken 2, maybe 3 running backs before you took Miles Sanders. But I agree in one thing, that of them, you could argue he's got the best ceiling.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm going for here. I'm going for that ceiling, and I think Miles Sanders provides it. And I too much talent on Miles Sanders, I feel like, to not have an RB1 season at some point in his career, and this feels like the right time for it. Jake, we are on to your 5th round pick here. Who do you got for your 5th round selection?
Yeah, so I'm going to dare Funston to do something. Because I'm setting him up for an opportunity because I have some players I'm looking at. So, but I don't think Funston's going to go the way that I'm daring him to go. So I am going to go to quarterback, and I'm going to take Jalen Hurts for the rushing upside. As I've mentioned many times before, is that even if you only give him Daniel Jones' miserable season last year, which wasn't even 16 games, you just give him that passing line and you give him 800 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns, which is well within his wheelhouse, maybe 906, that he finishes as a top 10 quarterback. And that's by being a miserable quarterback passing the ball. So I will take the first quarterback. I will go Jalen Hurts and dare Funston to do something.
So if this was a super flex, he could have been number 1 pick, right? I mean,
you could argue that he could have been.
Yeah. Especially with what's left on the quarterback board. I mean, there's a few good ones there, but if you're actually having to play 2 of that list for each of us, that thins things out pretty good. So I don't know. I think I might actually. I don't know what you're daring me to do here, but I'm kind of daring myself to just empty out this running back tier and have my 2 flex spots be running backs with the 2 most unlikely featured backs heading into 2021. No one expected Myles Gaskin and Mike Davis to be in the position. We thought each team would draft somebody, bring somebody in to kind of give competition for touches. Didn't shape up that way, so it still could happen. But Mike Davis and Myles Gaskin for me, give them to me both.
Yeah, these are two guys who we've spent a bit of time on. We spent quite a bit of time on Mike Davis. Myles Gaskin, I just feel as though there's still not enough attention being paid to him after what he did last season. He's a guy who was an RB1 last year by points per game. And so, we could have written this script a little bit differently, and he wouldn't even be eligible to be part of this draft. We just went with straight points, and so he is here. But I feel like, it's a bit much probably, Jake, to ask him to be an RB, top 12 RB by points per game again this season. But I think with where you're getting him selected, RB 20, 22, right in that range. Let me just take a quick look at that. Yeah, RB 21 right now by ADP, 43rd overall, sandwiched in between Amari Cooper and Robert Woods. Like, not going to blow that away, but it feels like a pretty easy pick to make, especially if you feel as though you need a running back in that selection. It doesn't feel like you are reaching for a guy at a position that is falling apart.
No, and I'm a fan of his in general, so I think that's a warranted pick. Brandon, you did do what I dare you to do, but you also didn't take one of the running backs I was daring you to do. I thought I was concerned it was going to be Mike Davis and Darrell Henderson.
Me. I'm on the bottom rung of the Darrell Henderson train.
You're doing what Emory Hunt's doing.
He's a Cam Akers loyalist. He's a Cam Akers loyalist. He can't get with the next guy. You kidding me?
Yes, Emory, to steal his phrase, smooth brain thinking is like the answer is right in front of you, and you want to try and just find something else. The answer is in front of Darrell Henderson. If you love Cam,
is that your answer right here, Jake? Is Darrell Henderson your answer?
Darrell Henderson. I was hoping it was going to be him or Mike Davis. I wasn't even thinking. I mean, I don't think Myles Gaskin is far from either one of them. I do agree with that, but I was hoping that Mike Davis or Darrell Henderson would make it back with the Jalen Hurts pick. Again, look, everybody loved Darrell Henderson last year, one of the best values, backups behind Cam Akers. And then, he's dealt with injuries. There's no question that he's dealt with injuries throughout his entire career so far. Keep saying it. Leonard Fournette was hurt in college and hurt the first 2 years playing in the NFL. Didn't make it through the entire season at either one of them. You're injury prone until you're not, unless you have a degenerative knee, a serious tissue injury that pops up every single year, like that type of thing. I don't play into the injury game just because we're trying to predict a moving target, honestly. So, Todd Gurley last year, that's different. That's something worth being concerned about. But at this point, Darrell Henderson stepping into this role, Xavier Jones, the rest of Calais. People were Calais 3 weeks ago. Now they're Xavier Jones. Stop. It's Darrell Henderson.
Are you at all concerned about?
Nope.
That's the wrong way to say it. No. You might be. At all concerned is the wrong way to say it. Who could this team go out and sign that would maybe pull you back off of your Darrell Henderson stance? Now, I'm not saying you're suddenly going to think he's outside the top 30 at this position, but who could they go out and sign where maybe you would take Myles Gaskin over him, for example?
Nobody. There's nobody out there. They could go sign Najee Harris. There's nobody out there. There's no. Like
Duke Johnson ends up in LA and is like the clear receiving back. You're not. That wouldn't move the needle just a spot or two.
No. Duke Johnson's the same as all the rest of the every single player that fantasy world has gotten enamored with and keeps playing that game. Yes, we love what we see from him. There's a reason he was limiting his opportunities.
Whoa.
What?
Yeah.
We saw him bomb when he was like the backfield was his.
I'm not Mr. Duke Johnson here. I'm just saying that if the Rams were to go out and sign a player like that who has an obvious skill set, that it could. I'm not saying he's going to bump Darrell Henderson off the top of the depth chart, but he could take away 40 targets that we think are going to Darrell Henderson.
No, he won't.
All right.
I'm telling you, asked the question. There's nobody out there. Duke Johnson's not on the team for a reason. He's no better than Xavier Jones.
Mark Ingram, Adrian Peterson, someone like that actually is more of a threat to take away carries.
No, there's how many times do I have to say it? There's no effing running back out there that they can bring in that's going to change my mind. Because they're not trading for anybody of his talent or better. The only thing that can change my mind about Henderson is if he gets hurt again.
Yeah. All right. Well, if Duke Johnson ends up in LA, we're going to have this conversation again. But for the time being, we're moving on.
Sounds like it'll be a short one.
Not concerned.
It would be a very short one. Let's move on to my 6th and 7th round picks. We got the draft board back up here. So I am there's a good chance, I feel like, the fantasy industry's single most shameless Odell Beckham apologist. And I just can't envision a scenario where he is healthy on a good team with a quarterback who, at the very least, has established a floor of competency as the clear number one option in the passing game, and he doesn't give you a low end to wide receiver season. I think that's really the floor for Odell Beckham. And so if you told me that he ended the season at 70 catches and 1,050 yards and 6 touchdowns, I would totally believe it. And maybe that's really is where he ends up. I would be shocked if he plays a full season and ends up anything less than that. And then there's always the chance that he gets back something of the New York Giants, Odell Beckham. I'm not saying he's getting all the way back there, but he could get 80 or 85% of the way back there, even on this very run-heavy team. And so I really like Odell Beckham. I do think that even from him to the next wide receivers, whether you think it's Ayuk, you think it's Chase, you think it's Higgins, and I think it's probably one of those guys in that group, I think there's a noticeable drop-off from Odell Beckham, especially at the floor spot. So I'm going to go with Odell Beckham. I'm going to get my third receiver there, excuse me, and then I'm going to take Joe Burrow. Jake has made the Joe Burrow case eloquently a couple of times already on this show. The pass attempts are just going to be massive. It's just going to be absolutely massive what he is doing in terms of putting the ball in the air. 650 pass attempts with 3 really good weapons. And hey, Joe Mixon in the backfield as well. So Joe Burrow, I mean, I think there's a path to Joe Burrow leading the NFL in passing yards, right? I mean, he could give us a Jameis Winston in 2019 season without the 30 interceptions. I think that's totally in play for Joe Burrow. I think he's a top 10 quarterback, and I think we see a monster season from him. The early reports coming out of Bengals camp on that knee are good, so I feel pretty good about Joe Burrow here. So he is the second quarterback off the board here in this no one's allowed draft after Jalen Hurts went, 5 picks ago to Jake. And that's how I get my first quarterback of the 2 that we need. Give me Joe Burrow here. Jake, you can comment on my picks or if you like, or you could just take it away with your 7th rounder.
No, I'm not commenting on the first one because he blocked me on Twitter because he's a dick. So doesn't understand humor. So Joe Burrow, you know this. I told you that I have him leading the league in pass attempts. So I will take his number 1 wide receiver, which Brandon is going to disagree on because we've had this conversation. But
we have had this conversation.
Yeah, he likes Higgins, but I like Chase. I keep going back to the fact that you're just the talent. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but with the past decade of drafts, you could argue that he's definitively top 10 talent in those drafts. Argue that he's potentially top 5 just on raw ability. Now, of course, we've seen plenty of prospects not hit in the NFL. Corey Davis was thought of in that fashion. And, but again, Corey Davis isn't.
John Ross on your team this season. John Ross from the Pacific Northwest out to your team this season. Now, Jake,
that conversation of nonsense of John Ross. Go back and look at my draft, probably. Get me. Don't even include me in that conversation.
John Ross.
I'm not saying you were on him. He's just a top 10 pick. Is all.
John Ross's best days in the NFL are still ahead of him. Don't worry.
Is that what it is? Well, because he hasn't had any days.
They couldn't not be, right?
So yeah, somebody just asked me in the rankings, Jamar Chase over Cooper Kupp. Please explain. And I think that's a warranted argument. If you want to take Cooper Kupp, I'm okay with it. I'm going to go Joe Burrow, 650 attempts. All 3 of these wide receivers can have value. And if Chase is anything we think he is, he could finish as a wide receiver 1, and you're not drafting him as such. So I'll take Chase as my number 2.
Yeah, honestly, and you putting me on Higgins over Chase. I literally have these guys back to back in the mid-20s on my rank. So I could easily go the other way. And before I took Davis and Gaskin, I actually toyed with just taking, just sweeping Cincinnati's receivers there with those 2 picks because I have them so close together.
Funston, really, where you said you have them back to back? Do you know off the top of your head where back to back Chase and Higgins?
I think I have him like 24, 25 or 25, 26. So
yeah, I just updated my rankings this morning and I have them 24 and 25 with Chase ahead of Higgins. So we're basically on the same page on these.
Why do you guys hate Chase so much? I'm at 21. You guys hate him.
I don't hate him. It's just like Higgins a smidge better, which, kind of makes it obvious where I'm going to go with one of these 2 picks.
Sure.
Give me T. Higgins.
Tyler Boyd.
Apparently, is he on the list? Yeah, okay, he didn't make the
list. Tyler Boyd's on here.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that anyways. I've exhausted my flex spot, so I need a quarterback or a tight end. Let's go ahead and go with Matt Stafford here, at least to get one solid QB1 on before you guys start taking second quarterback. So Matt Stafford for me, T. Higgins for me.
Let's get the Matthew Stafford case actually from you, Brandon, just because Jake and I talked about him a little bit last week when you were Montana-ing it up. So Matthew Stafford going to LA, getting to play with Sean McVay, getting to play with Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Where is he for you? Like when you're thinking about Matthew Stafford in a real draft, are you thinking about him as basically what he's going as, that like last group of wide receiver ones or quarterback ones I've missed out on the guys who run, but I'm happy for him to be my fallback in that like sort of Tom Brady, Joe Burrow range?
Yeah, absolutely. Like he's like, if I'm not going in for premium quarterback, I feel good about Matthew Stafford as like the consolation prize, the back end of the QB1 group. I mean, he's been, we know who he is, but he's always been that with Detroit. Now he's in a much better offensive environment. You got, you feel better about him in the hands of Sean McVay. You feel better about, McVay and the Rams targeting him as the guy that they think can move this offensive needle. So they invested in him for that reason. They gave up a lot of draft capital to bring him in as well. So I think they feel like his skill set's going to fit a hell of a lot better than Jared Goff.
I think they might feel that way too. I think they probably are pretty comfortable making that proclamation. Jake, 8th round pick. You need a wide receiver. You've got an open flex spot. You need one more quarterback. Who are you going with here?
Yeah, so I'm going to go for something we preach a lot here, and people should do this, is understanding where your position value is relative to everybody else's. And right now, you could argue I have the best quarterback, and I say that with the inflection I did because you could argue it. You could argue Joe Burrow. You could argue that, hell, Jalen Hurts is just awful, and it is Matthew Stafford. So how do I double down on that? Well, I make sure I get Trevor Lawrence because, in my opinion, that tier
that was who I was gonna take for sure. Now you're talking, freaking jerk.
We're talking Baker. We're talking. We hope the Bears get their heads.
They're all the same. They're all
Justin Fields. We hope. Trey Lance, the next hook as the next Josh Allen. Well, remember Josh Allen's rookie season. Like, there's just a lot of questions at quarterback after that. And I know people are going to be like, well, he took a rookie quarterback. Yeah, but there's a reason that the things were lauded on him that they were. It's not hyperbole to say he's a generational talent, as much as I hate that term.
And I mean, we've talked about this a lot. I'm sure other people in our industry are talking about this a lot. Like, Trevor Lawrence walks into his rookie year with as good a collection of skill position talent around him as you could realistically hope for. Especially when you're a Trevor Lawrence, when you are the number 1 overall pick, obviously the team that got you was bad the year before. Like, maybe there's a player here and a player there, but you can't expect too much around you as the first overall pick. I mean, even Joe Burrow stepped into a pretty decent situation, but didn't have everything around him that Lawrence does. And Burrow was really dealing with a really bad offensive line last season. Trevor Lawrence, we're talking about DJ Chark and Marvin Jones. They love having that steady veteran presence in Marvin Jones and Visca and Travis Etienne and James Robinson. Like, there is a lot of infrastructure around Trevor Lawrence that you have to envy for a rookie quarterback. So on top of his just ability, you love the environment that he is stepping himself into. So I think that was one of the easier picks we've seen in our no ones allowed fantasy draft, and really probably pushes me away from the quarterback position. I would maybe lock up Justin Fields with one of these 2 picks if I knew that he was going to be starting by week 4 or so. I am a tiny bit worried about what Matt Nagy might do there. So I'm just going to stay away from Justin Fields. And actually, you know what? I am going to go with a quarterback now that I look at it more, because there's one guy here, like Baker Mayfield, floor. Justin Fields, a little bit worried about when he takes over as the starter. Ben Roethlisberger, floor. Derek Carr, floor. Ryan Fitzpatrick, floor. If there is a guy who's got some ceiling here, it's Tua Tagovailoa.
Beller. I was getting him on the comeback.
I thought you were going to say Trey Lance after all that.
No. I mean, if the Colts end up getting really jittery about Carson Wentz and try to do something for Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe. But that's another one where I could see, like, that's the team that should be the self-styled 2017 Chiefs, right? Because they've got a lot of skill on that team. They've got a good defense. They could probably win some games with Jimmy Garoppolo and then hand the keys over to Trey Lance next season. So that should be the team that thinks of themselves as the 2017 to 2018 Chiefs, not necessarily the Bears. But Tua has the ceiling. It's something I've argued a lot on this show, and I'm going to keep arguing it because of everything that was just a total mess around him last year. And it all started with not having a training. Imagine being a quarterback and not having a real training camp, a real exhibition season, any of that, having Ryan Fitzpatrick over your shoulder, being on the surprisingly competitive team. I really think everything's set up for Tua to take a major step forward in year two. So I'll round out my quarterback position with Tua Tagovailoa, and then I look at I can do anything I want at the flex position. There's a lot of good receivers on the board. I really like Raheem Mostert, but I feel like these receivers are a little bit too good to go with him. And so I am going to take my flex. It is going to be a wide receiver, and it's going to be Courtland Sutton. Because, give me him as the number one receiver in Denver. Give me him as a guy who would have been maybe not even part of this discussion had he not missed all of last year. I really think you go back to what he did in 2019 was clearly an ascending talent, did it with very bad quarterback play. We talk about Allen Robinson. We talk about Terry McLaurin, guys who are consistently doing well with poor quarterback play. Courtland Sutton would probably be in that group if he had a healthy 2020 season. I think we put him there in 2021, and at least Teddy Bridgewater gives you a competency floor at the quarterback position in Denver. So I'm going to take Courtland Sutton, leave myself the tight end position left to take here. Jake, any Tua comments, any Courtland comments, and give us your 9th round pick.
No, I went into depth. If people want to head to the site, by the way, it's 50% off right now for all the subs. You can get the Tua on the breakout.
Get in there, 50% off.
Yeah, you can see with the rankings, but Tua have 16th, I think, at quarterback, but broke him down as a breakout quarterback. So I am in on Tua. The offense, I said this a million times, is finally built for him, and they're not straddling defense. So Sutton's only question, two questions. I was going to say, only question is health. The other question is, was the quarterback situation play out like? So
what did you guys make of Vic Fangio saying that Sutton's not showing confidence right now in that knee? Like he's not really I had him ranked 18th. I had to move him down a little bit. I don't you still have plenty of time for him to get that confidence, but it was a little bit
we were
concerning.
Always on different pages of that because I have Sutton. I haven't moved him. I had Sutton down at 34. I've been the low man on Sutton for a while.
Yeah, so there's a lot of wide receivers here, and you need one who you would be taking over Sutton.
You're more concerned about the
health and
quarterback,
or health and quarterback.
It was one of the other. Could or would the quarterback decision make you bump him up at all?
No, because Bridgewater is better floor, Locke is better ceiling. They just kind of offset each other.
All right, so, cool. Well,
it's kind of like the Winston versus Hill situation. So actually, even lesser of a difference between them. I was thinking about wide receiver, but there's one running back here that I kind of really want to get, and it might surprise you. I see Funston smiling, and I don't think it's going to be who Funston thinks it is.
Is it right here? You see where my cursor's at?
No, I don't see I can't see your cursor. You actually have to click in the cell. And it's like Google's not that magical. It actually is. There you go. It's like I think a lot of people expect Javonte Williams at this point, and I've continued to say I think Javonte Williams takes over by week 5, 6, 7. Melvin Gordon still has time to show up now. This is camps now. And it's like the preseason's coming. There's a situation where the running back is already the number one in his backfield, and it's Michael Carter. And Michael Carter is not a bell cow, 20 touches per game, but Michael Carter is Austin Eckler. That's the very, very good comparison of what they can bring to the NFL. I love Trey Sermon, but you brought up Raheem Mostert. I think that's a split from the get-go. Travis Etienne, splitting with James Robinson, split. Edmonds, Connor, split. I don't want to touch the Buccaneers backfield. I like Harris, but not at this point. I know Carter's the backfield, and that even if it's 55% of the time, I love Michael Carter here. I'll take him as my second flex.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I wasn't in a position to take a running back. I have Javonte Williams and Michael Carter back to back as well. So,
who isn't back to back for you?
That's a good question. I'm not surprised with that pick. I'm down with Michael Carter. That leaves me with kind of a forced hand for my final two picks. I need a tight end. I need a second quarterback. So the tight end is obvious. I was actually hoping to get Adam Troutman as the third tight end and just be happy with that. But I think I have to take Noah Fant here. Give me Noah Fant at tight end. And my second quarterback, you screwed me. I thought it would be Tua. If we're playing this league out, Tua's a pick because he has the highest upside, and if it doesn't work out, you're just picking up, the Derek Carr or the Ryan Fitzpatrick or somebody else that's left, and that's fine. Sure. but you go for the upside, and I think you made a great pick with Tua as the second guy. So
thank you.
So I guess I'm going Baker Mayfield here. He seems kind of like he is what he is. Kind of in that back end top 20 quarterback. And
look how boring your quarterbacks are compared to mine and Jake's.
Oh, it's totally boring. But that's, quarterbacks are boring. So there you go. It's representative of what the position is.
What's representative here is we got 5. This works out in a fun way because we're talking about guys who have never been QB1s. And look what 5 of our 6, or not never been QB1s, but haven't been QB1s either the last 2 seasons. I'm sure Matthew Stafford's got a QB1 season in there somewhere. Yes. Look at 5 of our 6 quarterbacks, right? I mean, Baker, Lawrence, Hurts, Burrow, Tua. These are young guys. These are all very high draft picks. And these are guys who, were college stars as recently as just a couple of years ago. So, it does feel like at least 1 or 2 of these guys is going to break through this season and be one of those QB1s. And hey, Baker, at least again, we're going back to OBJ, that competency floor that he provides at the quarterback position that we saw from him last year.
Yeah,
really has me feeling good.
Can I change that pick since Jake changed his?
Yeah, sure.
I just got to follow the point I just made about Tua. You draft for upside, and if you don't get it, then you go back and you fall back to like the Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, give me Trey Lance. Exactly.
There you go.
That makes a lot more sense.
No Justin Fields. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel better about Trey Lance starting sooner.
Yeah, is that all it comes down to here? That you just feel Lance
I also feel better about the San
Fields?
Francisco offense and Kyle Shanahan and like his track record dealing with quarterback. I feel better about.
Wait, if you knew both of them were starting week 1, you would still take Trey Lance?
Yes, I would, because
side bet, Fields versus Lance. Let's do it.
Because I want Trey Lance throwing to Debo and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk over Justin Fields throwing to Allen Robinson, a guy in Darnamui who we all think is a breakout candidate, but, that's kind of, TBD. And who else in that passing game? I mean, I'm a lot more excited about what San Francisco brings to the table.
All right, well, we are going to have a little side bet there because I am all over Justin Fields, and it's only like 37% homerism as to why I'm all over Justin Fields over Trey Lance. We got a couple more picks to make here, but before we do that, we've also got some picks you might want to make over at LinkedIn. That's right. Many small business owners busier than ever now and being focused on managing and growing their business can't always spend the time that they wish they could on recruiting. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has made it easier to find and hire the best candidates for free. Get started by posting your job for free to reach LinkedIn's network of 740 million professionals. You can fill out targeted screening questions to get your role from the most qualified candidates with the experience, skills, and motivation that you need. And right now you can post that first job for free at linkedin.com/fantasy. Again, linkedin.com/fantasy to get you to post your first job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's finish this off here. Jake, you and I both have 1 pick to make, and then we are good to go, wrapping up our no ones allowed fantasy draft. I'm going to pull up the board for the remainder of the show so you can see who we still have available. First of all, that was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever said in my life, asking if you could see my cursor. So thanks for not making too much fun of me, guys.
I could see your cursor. I didn't think it was ridiculous. I saw where you were pointing.
Oh, man. Well, here we go. Jake, you need a wide receiver. So Brandon Ayuk, Chase Claypool, Devontae Smith, who we heard is week to week now at Eagles camp because of a knee injury. Your boy DJ Chark. Who you looking at here?
By the way, you got to put my Trey Lance pick at number 10.
Juju.
Oh yeah.
Brandon Cooks, Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson. Back with your boy. You're trying to argue for the same. I mean, there's just a litany of wide receivers that are just all in the same group. So, who could finish as number 1? How about the one that I continually said just finished top 15 every single year, except for the one year he got hurt.
Oh,
and gets
okay.
150 targets. So I'm going to put Brandon Cooks in there. It's picking between the 2 Steelers, the 2 49ers. There's a ton of great options here, but I'm just going to go with Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, I think that's a wise decision. As you said, a guy who has been a top 15 receiver over and over and over and over again. So why not go ahead and take the shot on him? You could make an argument for so many of these guys. And Brandon, I will just take that layup of the tight end to round things out for us. Adam Troutman is going to be the final pick in our no ones allowed draft. We have made the sleeper case for Adam Troutman and maybe even more targets available to him than we thought was going to be the case with Michael Thomas now down for the foreseeable future. These are our teams. These are the teams we're going to be following. Again, we went into this saying no one who has been a one at his position over the last 2 years was eligible to be drafted. We are hunting for the guys who could be the next ones at their position. These are the teams we've got. We will be following this all season. We'll be giving you some updates here and there. We'll be talking some trash because that's the fun thing to do. Really quick before we go, any regrets? Now looking back over the draft board, which we got up here with my cursor doing big circles right in this range. Any regrets, Jake, that you wish you made a different pick?
No, I like how it pretty much turned out. And the wide receivers just kind of get very grouped together once you get past that top group.
Brandon, anything you wish you did differently?
No, not really. I had moments of feeling like maybe, but as everything played out, I'm really happy with the team. I don't think I could have asked to come away with a much better team than what I got.
Well, we're all feeling pretty good, and that's really the best place to leave a show. That's going to do it for this episode of the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. Again, thank you for being here with us. Those of you on YouTube, thanks for checking us out. We'll put this teams out there. We'll throw a poll out there and see who you guys all think did the best job drafting no number ones. As Jake said, check us out, 50% off. Just go get on the website, find an article you like, click in through there. Make it one of Jake's or Brandon's so they get the credit for it and get 50% off an annual subscription. For Jake and Brandon, I am Michael Beller. We're back with you later this week. We'll talk to you then.